welcome to Transfer Talk. We're delighted to be joined by South American football expert Tim Vickery. We've got a huge list of names to throw at Tim, including 3 potential midfielders that Manchester United are looking at. Speaking of United, Scott McTominay's future is unclear as Fulham walk away from a deal to sign him. Liverpool are yet to make a signing in this window so far. Is that about to change? A very good afternoon to Tim Vickery, Sam Abasaki, Kwaku Fari and Nabeed Haroon. Right, to this transfer domino involving Conor Gallagher, Samu Omorodion and Julian Alvarez. Let's begin with Gallagher and Omorodion. Deals worth £38 million have been agreed. Aren't quite done yet, though. Omorodion can move because Atleti now have a replacement in Julian Alvarez from Manchester City that's worth a huge £82 million. Let's go back then, Tim, to Conor Gallagher, obviously leaving Chelsea. Do you think this is a good fit for Gallagher playing under Diego Simeone?
Well, we think that he probably wouldn't have wanted to go in a perfect world. But if you're a central midfielder and you've got a chance to play under Diego Simeone, I think there's a lot to be learnt from there. Simeone, I always thought it was a shame that he didn't play in the Premier League because I think he's the type of player who would have been a sensation. I think he's got a lot to teach Conor Gallagher. Conor Gallagher's got all that lung power. I think Simeone can help him to run more effectively. So it's an opportunity for Gallagher to refine his game a little bit.
I mean, Kwaku, this is just a small part of the business Chelsea have done this summer, isn't it?
Yeah, Chelsea... when it comes to transfer strategy, this is very, very interesting from Chelsea. And it's the case of them, on the clear lake, signing a lot of players that have potential, but we haven't quite seen them do it on the top level. And letting go of a player like Conor Gallagher, it depletes the squad. He played 37 league games for Chelsea. The only game he missed was through suspension in the league. And so when you lose a player like that in the dressing room, it's going to have a huge effect on the squad. And the players that you're bringing in to replace him just aren't proven at the top level. So there's rightly some trepidation from Chelsea fans going into this new season. The first game's against Manchester City, and Chelsea know that they need to get bodies out, but also get bodies in to replace the experience they're losing in Conor Gallagher.
What do you make then of the business Chelsea have done just this summer? Are you happy with it?
It's difficult to assess it, right? Because these players might go on to be incredible. If you look at Cole Palmer, he didn't start a league game for Chelsea last season until the beginning of October. No Chelsea fan would have thought he would have scored 22 league goals last season. If you look at the signings that Chelsea made last summer, it's a slightly different strategy. If you look at that, there's Premier League proven players there. In Moises Caicedo, obviously Lavia was very, very good at Southampton, and Kunku's a player that was good playing in Germany. But it's a different strategy this summer for Chelsea, and that's why I think a lot of Chelsea fans are worried. In terms of the outgoings last year, Chelsea lost the core of that squad that won the Champions League in 2021. And so within a couple of years, Chelsea's team is completely different. I don't think we've ever seen a team win the Champions League and then within 3 years, almost nobody's there. Reece James and Ben Chilwell, the only remaining players from that winning Champions League side. And so it shows you the different strategy when it comes to Clear Lake. And their approach to it is very interesting. If it pays dividends and Chelsea are good next season, then it might be a model that other clubs follow. But as of now, Chelsea have 41 players on their books. The season starts in a week and a half. I am very worried for Chelsea's upcoming season.
I'm not sure what the model is. And what is the model to follow?
I don't know if anyone knows, do we?
Yeah, we were talking about forwards in the earlier show, and you've got 7 or 8 forwards, all with completely different attributes, completely different wage sort of structures in place for them, and then also completely different expectations of how much football they want to play or where they may end up. I don't feel like that's a strategy.
Yeah. But they're all being told something for them to come to this project.
Yeah, what are they being told?
And that's why it's interesting, because the window you saw last summer, I think that there was players that obviously thrived in Caicedo, especially at the back end of last season. Palmer obviously did well. Petrovic, he played a big part in what Chelsea achieved. But then the injuries, I'd say, affected Nkunku. So that was something else, and Lavia as well. But this window, I think we're almost seeing something different to that window. You're seeing a lot of youngsters coming through the door, playing in positions that are already filled with youngsters as well. So I'm not really sure if it makes sense.
And if you think it's complicated now, let's fast forward 12 months. Because in a year's time, they've got 2 absolutely fantastically promising South Americans coming in. Kendry Paez from Ecuador, who's already an established international with the Ecuadorian national team, and Estevan from Brazil, who is possibly the best talent Brazil has produced since Neymar. Both of them quite physically frail, left-footed. You're thinking, how on earth are these going to fit in the same team? So if it's complicated now, wait a year.
Tim, how good are we talking about these two kids? How good are we talking? Are we talking good as in they're going to come to Chelsea in a year's time, and you think perhaps going to get straight into that team?
You were mentioning there, what are these players being told? You know, and I've heard that Estevan said yes to Chelsea because they said we're not loaning you out. You are straight in contention. He's a young man in a hurry, you know. How good is he? Well, he's just suffered an injury, so he's on the back burner for a little bit. If he's fully fit, he's probably in the next Brazil squad for World Cup qualification at the start of next year. He's astonishing.
Yeah.
Kendry Paez, the Ecuadorian, has got a little bit of a kind of South American Phil Foden about him. And these are wonderful talents. I suppose you'd file it under nice problem to have, trying to fit all these players into a team, but it is a problem nonetheless.
Yeah.
Tim, you get me all excited.
Start off at 59, I've heard that. Yeah, there we go.
Right, another player then, on his way to Atletico Madrid, we just spoke about Conor Gallagher, is Julian Alvarez. What do you make of this deal, Tim? It is obviously a huge fee.
It's a massive fee. Good news for River Plate, because they get some of the solidarity payments. If you'd have asked me 2-3 months ago, well, I thought, no way. Because Alvarez, I thought, was such a pep player. You know, it's a phrase I've often used about him. He's a striker with the soul of a midfielder. You know, he's so versatile, can play right up top, can play a little bit behind and so on. And you thought, this is such a pep player. Yeah. And then, when City let him go to the Olympic Games, because there's no obligation to release for the Olympic Games, it's not on the FIFA calendar. And he went into the Olympic Games having just played the Copa America, 71 matches during the season. And when they let him go to the Olympics, you think, he's not in their plans anymore. That was the flag, the waving, saying he's on his way out. Now, from his point of view, he's moaned a little bit about wanting to be more important. And in today's market, Alvarez is something of an exception, because a lot of the players are being bought as promises rather than realities. Alvarez waited in Argentina just that little bit more. So at the time that he came, he was by far the best player in Argentine football. So he's used to being. And he's won the World Cup, he's won the Copa America twice. He wants to be one of the first names on the team sheet. You know, so he's a young man in a hurry. But 2 or 3 months ago, I never, ever would have seen this one coming.
In terms of him choosing to go to Atletico Madrid, how much does Simeone have a part to play in terms of being Argentine?
Yeah, perhaps, but I think one of the big things is how many clubs could have afforded him. You know, it's quite a limited list, isn't it? And Atletico wanted to do the deal, as you've said. They're moving players out in order to be able to do it. He's such an important player for Argentina, Alvarez, because we're going to have to face this. Sooner or later, we're going to have to say farewell to Lionel Messi. And one of the ways that Argentina are looking at replacing Messi is, rather than playing Alvarez up top, you can play Lautaro Martinez of Inter Milan there, and Alvarez just behind in the Messi role. Now, that's big boots to step into, but that shows you how important he is to Argentina and how frustrating maybe it was for him to look at the City squad and thinking, well, I'm not going to be top dog here.
How do you think he fits in at Atleti? Because obviously he's robust. You mentioned Conor Gallagher's running power, but Alvarez is exactly the same. But I do think Atleti under Diego Simeone have now developed from this side that often you'd go just run around and make tackles. And now they are a more technical side. They have a lot more technical profiles in their team. I just wonder where he fits in, because out of all the signings they've made, he's probably the one where I'm going, he's actually, no disrespect to the other players, but he's so technically advanced and so far ahead of some of the other players. I wonder if he actually makes that his team.
Well, that's probably what seduced him, you know. Stay at City and you'll be one of a squad. Come to Atletico Madrid and we will build things around you. You know, I think that's probably been a key thing in Simeone's sales pitch.
I mean, Tim spoke about it there for Argentina, Nabeid, maybe Julian Alvarez sort of dropping back and playing Lautaro Martinez up top. So do you think Alvarez is an out-and-out number 9 or not?
I've struggled with this because he's such a clean finisher. When I first saw him at City, I was like, this looks like an Aguero regen. The clean finishes from tight angles. He doesn't necessarily hit it across the keeper every time. Sometimes he hits it near post. The variation's very Aguero-esque. But then when I saw him play a little bit deeper, I was like, his intelligence off the ball is really good. He drops into the pockets at the right times. I don't think he's a pocket player per se, But I think because he's got the technical quality that you can get the ball into him in that number 10 role. And I don't mean De Bruyne number 10. I do mean like a Messi number 10, like a very close to the forward, but he picks up the pieces and finds the forward after. That is the position I think he will end up playing. I don't really feel like there's a role right now, but it's almost like a traditional Kaká type role, like a 10 but bordering a 9 next to a number 9.
I mean, in terms of his replacement, Tim, is it Savio, Savinho? How are we okay with both?
Yeah, both. His name's Savio. Savio just means little Savio.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's kind of familiar touch. The original Ronaldo was Ronaldinho originally. So call him Savio, call him Savinho. It's the farm boy, because he grew up on a farm, going to the city. In no way is he a like for Alvarez, because Alvarez, as we've said, is a footballer. Savinho is a winger. Left-footed, can do either wing. He played most of his football coming up, cutting in from the right, but had that glorious season last season with Girona in Spain when he was doing both wings. And what fascinates me with this move is that with Alvarez, you could just see that he could slot in a number of different ways. With Savio, I think there are more complicated questions here. One thing that the Guardiola school is often criticised for in Brazil is the positional rigidity. And people would say that about maybe Jack Grealish at the moment, how he's been limited at City. Savio, he does like to carry the ball. Quite strong trunk, he's developing physically, he'll like to carry the ball cross-field. And can Guardiola incorporate that? Can he make this player flower, blossom, or will tactical restraints limit what he can do? I think that's for me, that's an absolutely fascinating question with this move.
Do you think it's going to be similar to Doku and how he's playing in this City side? Because I don't think anyone expected Doku to have the impact he did at the start, especially of the season. Obviously, we saw him being a bit more restricted when he started seeing himself driving into dead ends and probably was told on the training ground, OK, stop that. Yeah. Do you think that's going to happen to Savio?
Perhaps. I think that's all part of the process of adaptation. So I think I see this move as a little bit of a test, not only for the player, but for the coach as well, because obviously the function of the coach is to get the best out of the player. They've followed him through the City group. He's had the ups and downs, that thing where they come across and they're loaned out here and there. Lots of careers can lose momentum as a result of that. He went to Holland and he got injured and it didn't really work. He showed the strength of character to bounce back. That wonderful season with Girona. But he's not going to get the same freedom with City. So it's up to him to adapt to that, and it's up to Guardiola to get the best out of the player that they've just acquired.
We've seen Pep Guardiola get the best out of a lot of players, so it's going to be interesting to see what he can do with Savio. Now, of course, a player coming to the Premier League, he'll be new to the Premier League if this deal gets done, is Samu Omorodion. Kweku, we spoke about him earlier on today. For those who weren't watching that, tell us a little bit about him, but maybe why do you think Chelsea have gone for him? Or can you see why Chelsea have gone for a player like him?
Cards for many Chelsea fans at the beginning of the transfer window. He's a player that's only played one season of top-level football, and that wasn't even for Atleti. That was for Alvarez. They sent him out on loan straight away. Obviously, Atleti signed him from Granada. He's a player that scored 8 goals in 34 league games last season. He's very robust. He's strong. He can also press well. But if he can be a success in the Premier League, remains to be seen, because he is still very young, very raw. And it's like the other Chelsea signings. We just don't know. They're buying potential, and it's whether he can really live up to the expectations and break that curse of Chelsea number 9s.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because obviously, like Kweku said, there's potential in him. You see his strengths, you see what he can do for the Chelsea squad. They don't really have a striker that is, consistent in the 6-yard box. That's where he got majority of his goals. He's 6'3", plays for the Spanish under-21s. So you can see his strengths, but again, where will he get the game time? Is he going to need a few months to acclimatise? Is Mark Huey, who's been playing in pre-season, is he going to be the player that is getting minutes? I'm just not sure.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea have definitely got to focus on getting now players out, because their squad is absolutely ridiculous, and that is something that Enzo Maresca is going to have to deal with. Right, the new EFL season is just a matter of days away, and we're with all 72 clubs in the build-up. It'll be a special weekend for Bromley, who will play Harrogate in their first ever league match. And our very own Mark McAdam has gone to Hayes Lane for us. Mark, there must be so much excitement there about this game.
Yes, absolutely. What about that for a segue in football? Tim Vickery talking Argentinian football, and now we're here at Bromley as they get ready for their first ever game in their history in the Football League. 132 years of non-league football is going to change this weekend. I'm with the club's for over 10 years, Mark Hammond. Mark, actually, we're in the foyer, the entranceway. This is where over 900 Bromley fans will be as they get ready for their first home game in a couple of weeks' time. But this is actually quite special because the players get changed on the left-hand side and then walk through here, don't they?
Yeah, this is the heartbeat on a match day, and from 12 o'clock onwards, all the supporters, it starts really early, gearing up for the 3 o'clock kick-off. And then the manager, Andy Woodman, and the players, they do the match day walkthrough, and they get the Guard of Honour, which is kind of the starter and the feel-good factor for them entering the changing room where they prepare for the fixture.
And you can see, if the cameraman just sneaks over your shoulder there, you can see the trophy cabinet, and that is the National League playoff final winning trophy that Bromley picked up this summer when they beat Solihull Moors on penalties. The game finished 2-2, and the players actually got a very special medal as well. And because it's the Olympics, I thought I'd get in the spirit of getting the medal out. I feel like an Olympian. What do you think?
Yeah, you are an Olympian, Mark.
There we go. But special memories in that game.
Huge. A remarkable achievement for just all of the preparation that's gone into where we are now. In the EFL2, the investment from the owner, Andy Woodman, and the backroom staff. There's a lot of investment and preparation to securing that victory at Wembley, and also not to mention the winning penalty, Byron Webster.
To make sure this stadium is EFL ready, they've had to spend over £1 million over the course of this summer. Beverley stand on my right-hand side, that was built in 2019, and you can see the grass is looking absolutely incredible and ready for the season, isn't it?
Yeah, well, previous to this, I think our last game on grass was against Guiseley, where there was something, we used to have. We then laid the 3G, which then saw, something like 60 to 70 community hours plus the academy programme. We've now, due to the success, we've had to sort of rip that up. We're going to lay it over the back so we can still deliver that provision and the hours to the community. But now we've got the top end grass pitch, which the players used yesterday, and there was a huge buzz and a real energy around the first training session on the pitch, and it looks superb. And fortunately we're ahead of schedule with the groundsman and the team that have got all of the hard work that's gone in to just get ready for the first game in the Carabao Cup.
No, it is absolutely fantastic. We've got a brand new TV gantry for Sky Sports, of course. More games, more than ever on Sky Sports Plus, a brand new football channel. And the stand over on the far side where the away fans are going to be housed was built in the 60s. So we've got a stand that was built in 2019, a stand that was built in the 1960s. It really is fantastic. The capacity for this stadium is 5,000. And, of course, there will be a number of EFL fans, particularly in League Two, that want to tick this word, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. And Mark, really sorry about the breakup there. And if you couldn't hear what they were saying, it is going to be a very, very special weekend for Bromley, of course, who play their first ever league game. That's going to be very special in the Football League. Right, coming up after the break, Tim is going to tell us about some new South American players for us to watch in the Premier League this season. Manchester United have held initial talks with Monaco over the signing of midfielder Youssouf Fofana. United are looking at a number of options, including Richard Rios from Palmeiras, Burnley's Sander Berge, Real Sociedad's Martin Zubamendi and Fiorentina's Sofian Amrabat. Interest is retained in PSG's Manuel Ugarte, but not at the prices being quoted. First of all, Nabeed, then, Youssouf Fofana. Is he the sort of player United need?
I would say so. I'd also say in terms of price, considering United have to let go of a player before they bring someone in. And in terms of profile, Sam spoke about it in the morning show, they need someone who can sit next to Kobbie Mainoo. It really depends on system. You can see his stats on screen. For me, the passes completed is a really important stat. Progressive passes, I think he averages about 8 a game. Casemiro averages 5. I think they really need someone who can pick the ball up and play it into dangerous areas effectively. And I think this whole time, the plan has been, can we build this team around Bruno Fernandes? Or at some point, can Bruno Fernandes get the leeway or the freedom that a De Bruyne has at Man City? The only way you get that is if you can get a guy who can get the ball to him. And also, can that person also win possession back for you? That's something Fofana does really well. So I'd say, on balance, considering all the options, yes. Do I think he's the long-term solution and that's how Manchester United will end up competing for titles and trophies? Probably not, unless he continues to develop in the way he has been. But as the current options go, I'd say possibly the most likely. But I've got Tim sat there, and I don't want... Tim's going to go, well, I know a guy.
Well, talking of...
Run with that ball, man.
Tim, obviously 3 names, Richard Rios, Ugarte and Andre. Let's start with Richard Rios from Palmeiras. Tell us a little bit more about him.
Really interesting backstory. A lot of the players now, the clubs are more or less following them from the womb, you know. Not this fella, because he was a futsal player until like 6 years ago. From Colombia, he was discovered playing in a futsal tournament in Brazil. A Brazilian club looked at him and thought, "Let's get him on the pitch. Let's see what he can do." And there was injuries, and he went off to Mexico, and he tried to find a club. And then last year, he just went whoosh with the club that won the league in Brazil, Palmeiras, and he was even better for Colombia recently in the Copa America. I agree entirely with your analysis about what United need from central midfield. Someone to sit maybe alongside Kobbie Mainoo. I would have thought that Rios is more Kobbie Mainoo than the player to play alongside Kobbie Mainoo. He's versatile, Rios, long legs, physically strong, needs calming down. He's a little bit, you know, he needs calming down. And I think he's a very, very useful player who really put himself in the shop window with that Copa America, with his midfield versatility. But I wonder if that's exactly the kind of midfielder that United need at the moment.
When you look at Rios, saw highlights or clips of him at Copa America, and similar to Kobbie Mainoo, when he was interviewed, he talked about how he loved dribbling when he was younger. Yeah. When you see Rios, most of the clips I see of him is dribbling. He's not really playing as a centre midfielder. Yes. So is that the case that if they do bring him in, they're going to start playing him in a position that he's not necessarily most comfortable with? Because he looks very exciting.
Yeah, he's very versatile, and he can pass as well. But I would have thought, especially with the youth of Mainoo, you need more discipline there. And it's certainly positional discipline. And that's not really his game, possibly because he's come to it relatively late. I think he's a very exciting talent, and I'm sure that he's going to go somewhere, but I'm not exactly convinced that that's the hole that United need to fill.
What about Manuel Ugarte then?
Now we're talking, because looking at United last year, the ease with which they were played through. You know, opponents found it very, very easy to play through the lines, and Casemiro got exposed because of that. Ugarte, Uruguayan, reminds me a lot of a young Javier Mascherano. I don't think he's quite as good, but he's that type of player. Tigerish in the tackle, understands the game, likes the pressure, likes the occasion, wins the ball, crisp forward passes. The coach who threw in Mascherano to the Argentine national team before he played for his club was one Marcelo Bielsa. Marcelo Bielsa took over Uruguay. What's the first thing he does? Throws in Ugarte as his central midfielder. Also, in one of the games in the Copa America, started off with Ugarte in the back line. You know, Mascherano ended up in the back line at Barcelona. I like him very, very much, and I like him for United very, very much. There does seem to be a sticking point over the fee. There could be some transfer window poker playing here, because if Paris Saint-Germain don't place that much higher value on him as a player, then surely there's room for negotiation there. If he's not going to be first team this season for Paris Saint-Germain, then surely United can wait a little bit and try and bring that fee down. But I see him very much as a player who can fill that hole that you were talking about there with United.
What about Andre then at Fluminense?
Well, he would perhaps be an option that United might look at if they're scared off of Ugarte. Andre, lots of rumours about him last year. And Liverpool, I'm told, came in with a big bid and Fluminense didn't accept. They wanted to win South America's Champions League, the Libertadores. They'd never won it. So they gave priority to winning the title. They won the title. The problem is, so much of the transfer window, especially for South American clubs, is timing. And since then, a year later, he's now hit the 23 mark, which is the point at which the European clubs start to be less interested. He has run into injury problems. His club, the reigning South American champions, are currently in the relegation zone in Brazil, although Thiago Silva he's played 4 games in the league for them. They won them all 1-0. So he's helped them carry them out of the relegation zone. But all these things put together, and the value of Andre is not what it was a year ago. Now, Fulham are also interested. I think Fluminense will have to sell this window, because if they don't sell this window, the value will plummet once he reaches 24. So watch this space. A lot of clubs are going to be interested. I can understand why United might be interested if they're not going to follow Ugarte. What kind of player is he? Well, Fluminense, I don't know if you saw the Club World Cup final against Man City. They're very, very unorthodox side, really unorthodox side. Playing out the back almost suicidally. So Andre, as the holding midfielder, used to receiving the ball in pressure situations, used to progressing the ball, also gets around the high defensive line much of the time, so loads and loads of space to cover. They would often, second half when they're chasing the game, they would often put him in the back line and give him even more space to cover. So there's a lot of skill set there. There's a big skill set. The worry is, has he come back from the injury as good as he was? Fluminense, if they're going to make this deal, whether it be Fulham, whether it be United, whether it be someone else, they're going to have to accept a lot less than they could have got for him a year ago.
Yeah, right. We're going to rattle through these really quickly. But Tim, you've picked out 4 players to watch. Guido Rodriguez and Luis Guilherme.
Yes.
Yes.
I knew you could do it. With a run-up, I knew you could do it.
Tell us a little bit about those 2.
Absolutely opposing players. Guido Rodriguez, 30, vastly experienced Argentine holding midfielder. Argentina always carry him around but rarely use him, which shows that he's a good bloke. No, he's not going to rock the boat, You know what you're going to get from him. Holding midfielder, tall, much more position than pace, doesn't offer a great deal on the ball. So this is experienced pro to do a job. There are limitations there, but you know what you're getting. Luis Guilherme, coming from Palmeiras, is teenage winger who is being bought on promise and not on reality. Physically strong, real explosive pace, left-footed, played most wide right, cutting in. The coach was trying to get him play a little bit more centrally because he has got a shot on him. But this is a player in his entire professional career who scored 1 goal. It was a terrific goal. It won a game. But 1 goal. My worry here is that they've spent so much money on him, is it 25 million plus, that there will be pressure. Go on, get him out there. We spent 25, get him out there. And there's obviously going to be adaptation there. So this kind of deal has been given a huge push by the Vinny Jr. deal a few years ago. I remember thinking, I was there when Real Madrid paid 40 million. He was 16. They couldn't take him until he was 18. He hadn't played a senior game. And you're thinking, no, this is madness. And it's turned out to be a terrific bargain. And it means that lots of clubs are trying to follow that line. The one thing you think you've got with him is physically he can cope with the Premier League. He's quite well built, and that pace is really express. But please, handle with care. You're buying on promise, not on reality. West Ham fans, please be a little bit patient with him.
And a quick word then, Tim, on Carlos Miguel and Wesley.
Yeah, Carlos Miguel, goalkeeper, who Forest have brought in. He was a reserve goalkeeper, and they had a big-name keeper, and he was never getting a game. But every time you saw him, this giant figure, you thought, there's something there. And this move, I think, has happened, and one of the big successes of last season at Forest was Murillo, the centre-back, the left-footed centre-back they brought in. And Murillo, I think, said to Forest, you know what, we've got this reserve goalkeeper back at Corinthians. You want to have a look at him? We think that there's something there. I remember from when I first went to Brazil and played the lowest level of football you could possibly imagine, playing in goal. Defending is a collective endeavour, and you've got to have language in order to do it. You know, I was playing in a team that was half English, half Brazilian, and I was trying to think, what language should I be talking in? The ball's already in the back of the net. So Carlos Miguel, whether they're going to throw him in straight away, I don't know. Whether they're going to give him an intensive course in English for goalkeepers. But certainly Murillo thinks the world of him. That's why he's persuaded the club to have a look. Doesn't have a lot of games behind him, but he stepped in with high-pressure games for Corinthians as a backup goalkeeper. Always did well. I'll be fascinated to see how he goes.
Tim, it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much.
The way the guys were just sat there, just listening to everything you were saying.
They're sat there thinking, why on earth doesn't he shut up?
No, it was absolutely brilliant.
Incredible.
Thank you so much for coming in.
It was my pleasure.
It's been
Thank
a
you for
real
having
pleasure
me.
to just sit there and listen to you talking about all those players. And next week we'll hear from you, and you'll be back in Brazil.
I will, yeah.
Yes.
So it'll be down a crackly phone line or something like that. It might. I promise, it won't freeze as much as Bromley.
Oh, Tim, honestly, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Right, coming up, Mats Hummels has spent his whole career in the Bundesliga, but could he now be on his way to the Premier League? We'll have more for you next. Welcome back. Brighton remain in talks for Celtic's Matt O'Reilly and have made contact with free agent and World Cup winner Mats Hummels. Right, let's talk about it. Mats Hummels to the Premier League, 35 years old, Nabeed.
Legend.
Can he do it?
Absolutely, he can do it. I always say football's more about the mentals than it is the physicals, and Mats Hummels has always been a centre-back that's not rapid, not physically dominant. So his entire game and how he plays football is in here, and he had a really good season last season. What's wrong?
He's already shaking his head at you.
We're doing this now is because we got into a discussion on Good Morning Transfers about Mats Hummels or Thiago Silva, and Tim Vickery just espoused so much knowledge there. He told us that Fluminense, what did he do? He's come in for four games, four games and 4 clean sheets, and they won all of them 1-0.
We're comparing Mats Hummels coming to Brighton.
No,
Thiago Silva in Brazil.
No, the question was, obviously, Mats Hummels is 35, and, you know, players do tend to struggle. Some players do tend to struggle. Coming to the Premier League, especially the Premier League at the back end of your career, can always be difficult. Now, Thiago Silva is one who has completely just, like, every expectation he just exceeded. Obviously was winning Champions Leagues at the age of 37, 38 and still doing it at the age of 40. The argument is not everyone can do that. Is Mats Hummels good enough to be able to do what Thiago Silva did at Chelsea?
After the Germany squad was announced, everyone said, how is Mats Hummels not in this squad? Because he had an outrageous season. So if he's good enough to go to the Euros with Germany, who everyone was saying are potential favourites, they'll make it to the final, etc., etc., how can he not then do it for Brighton?
No, I think he's a great player, and obviously he's 35 years old, and like we said, we've seen Thiago Silva do it.
I'm 32.
Could you do it in the Premier League?
Do you even play goals? No, I'm joking.
You know who else was 32? Lewis Dunk, his partner. And I think that's the biggest question, though, in terms of who Mats Hummels will play next to if he came to Brighton.
Yeah, but that's the thing. So with Hummels and Dunk, with the IQ that they have, you can see it working, but also with the speed of the Premier League, I'm just wondering, especially with the other options that they have as well. They've got quite young centre-backs that will also want to be playing. Hummels will definitely want to be playing at this stage in his career. He's probably probably happy that he's a free agent currently. But I think it's just an interesting move. And obviously Brighton love playing out from the back, so it does make sense. But I'm just interested to see how it works out. But like you said, he doesn't get injured a lot, so it could work.
I mean, and the experience could be second to none. You know, it's a new manager, Herzler at Brighton. They've just lost Pascal Gross, who's obviously been there a long time and offered a lot. So not even just, you know, Mats Hummels, but the experience he brings with him, I should say, could be vital for Brighton.
Yeah, also, the thing we always say about that Brighton side is they're naive. There'll be a game where they play really good football and still lose 2-0 because they're a little bit soft-centred. I think you have someone in between who now brings that experience to those younger centre-backs, that young defence and that young side, and a new manager who's very young as well. So I think overall, Mats Hummels in the big Mats Hummels in the Premier League is good.
We shall see, won't we? Will Mats Hummels be on his way to Brighton? Right, let's continue 72 Live now, as we're with every League Two side today as we count down to the new EFL season. Keith Downey was at Carlisle earlier, and he's now made the journey over to Morecambe. Keith?
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. 70 miles down the road from Carlisle to the Mazuma Mobile Stadium here at Morecambe. Morecambe playing in League Two, of course, this season. And I think they're playing Carlisle in a week or two's time. So it'll be interesting to see who wins from that match. But as you can see, I'm here at the stadium right now. And I'm joined by an asset of this football club. It's Jody Asset, who is the events manager here at Morecambe. We'll get to these pies in a moment, right, because we've got a little bit to experience with those, shall we say. But, Jodie, first of all, I'm going to come this side of the camera. Tell us a little bit about your job at the club.
Yeah, so my role is head of events, bars and catering. So effectively we're responsible for the events, the bars and the catering at the football club. So it's anything on a match day in terms of the kiosks, the bars that are in the stadium, the hospitality that we do. And then on a non-match day, we also do non-match day events. So we hold lots of events here at the stadium, from conferences, christenings, weddings, funerals, vaccinations, pretty much anything and everything.
Yeah, and you started off, I believe, as a waitress at the football club, and you're now head of events, and you're winning awards all over the place, are you not?
Yeah, so I started back in 2013, so I've been here 11 years. Started off part-time, but 11 years it was in May, so it's a long time, but I love it here. It's a really nice place to work, and there's lots of great people that are involved at the football club. And then we've recently just won our hospitality award for the small stadium, which is all small stadiums across football, rugby and cricket. So we did really well, really proud of that one.
Brilliant. Looking forward to the season ahead?
Absolutely. So we're getting ready to go on a week on Saturday. We're at home to Gillingham, so we're really looking forward to starting our season here.
Well, I'm looking forward to trying your pies. So you're probably going to have to help me talk here because my mouth's going to be full. Talk us through the pies, which is which and why are they so good?
So we've got steak and ale. So that one we don't actually sell on the kiosks on a match day. That one's exclusively in hospitality.
Right.
This is our chicken ham and leeks. That's won plenty of awards. That's sold on the kiosks on a match day, and also we do that in our hospitality suite as well. This is our meat and potato pie, and this one is our vegan option. So it's sweet potato, chickpea and vegetable, so that covers the dietary requirements.
Right, so which one am I trying?
Try them all.
Try them all. Try them all. Now, I have to say, I just stopped at the services on the way down the road from Carlisle, or hot footing from one stadium to the next. I stopped at T-Bay Services. Anyone who knows T-Bay Services, the best service station in the country. There are other service stations available, of course. And I had a cooked breakfast there, so I'm not too sure how I'm going to get through these pies. So I'm going to try one or two. So I'll try, what's it?
Try the chicken ham and leek.
Chicken ham and leek, right.
Yeah.
I'll try this first, right. You're going to have to tell me a bit about it because my mouth's going to be full.
Yeah, so we make all our pies on site here at the stadium. We've got our pastry chef Jackie, who has a secret recipe for our pastry, and then the other chefs make the filling, and that, like I say, that's sold on the concourses, and we also do that in our hospitality lounges as well.
Have a look at that, Damon, cameraman. Look at that chicken ham and leek. That looks great in there. It's really good, I have to say. I don't know if I'd better finish that myself, so I'm going to have one bite of that, and then vegan. Let's try the vegan option. Quite like vegan stuff, actually. So, God, it's heavy, isn't it?
Yeah. So our vegan option's gone down really well on our kiosks. We have quite a lot of people. It's got a bit of a spice to it, so we have quite a lot of people who aren't actually vegan that opt for that pie, which is great. So we changed from a cheese and onion to this one because obviously the cheese and onion wasn't a vegan option for people, so it just caters for that extra dietary requirement.
Just while I'm finishing this off, quick question. How are you going to get on this season, Morecambe?
We're going to get into the playoffs.
You're getting the playoffs?
Yeah.
Confident.
Yeah.
Well,
hopefully.
Well, I hope you get in the playoffs. Meanwhile, I'm going to stay here for the next couple of hours. We'll get to Barrow next, but I've got 8 pies to get through first. So, looking forward to finishing these. Back to you.
Oh, Keith, as days at work go, that's 10 out of 10. Going and eating pies, I'm jealous. Right, so just over 3 weeks left of the transfer window. Coming up, we'll talk you through each club's best transfer so far. Might not include Liverpool in this one, and who needs to do more. There is 23 days to go until the deadline, and we are going to rate the best signings for each club in the Premier League. Before we do that, I'm just going to run you through who we've picked. So Arsenal, we've got Calafiori. Villa, we've got Onana. Bournemouth, Sinistera. Brentford, Igor. Brighton, Wifer. We've got Chelsea, Tosin. Crystal Palace, Kamada. Everton, O'Brien. Fulham, Emile Smith-Rowe. Ipswich, Hutchinson. Leicester, Fatawu. Liverpool, no one. Man City, Savinho. Man United, Yoro. Newcastle, Kelly. Forest, Jota Silva. Southampton, Brereton Diaz. Tottenham, Gray. West Ham, Fulkrug. And Wolves, Tommy Doyle. Right, the stage is yours. Kwaku?
Do you know what? I was going to pick Arsenal, but I'm actually going to talk about Brentford. It's a bit more interesting. Igor Thiago. Why do you make that face for? Igor Thiago from Club Brugge. A player that's really brought in to be that Ivan Toney replacement. I think Brentford were looking to maybe sell Ivan Toney this transfer window. Unfortunately, he got injured on July the 20th in their pre-season friendly against Wimbledon. Going to be out until the end of 2024. And so that beggars the question, what are Brentford going to do when it comes to Ivan Toney? Will they have to keep him? Of course, his value goes down as time progresses. And so it's a shame for Brentford because Igor Thiago is a man that last season scored 18 league goals. He's very, very promising, 24-year-old Brazilian. But now Brentford are going to have to stay put with Ivan Toney. So it affects other teams as well that are looking for strikers and maybe looking at Ivan Toney as an option for a striker up top.
Nabeed?
We have to talk about Liverpool, seeing as you really want me to talk about Liverpool.
Well, no, but I mean, they're the only team that haven't signed anyone.
Yeah, but they've made probably the most important signing, which is Arne Slot, because Jurgen Klopp's gone and Liverpool have to bring in a manager, which is probably the toughest task that any team would have to do. Is if you lose the man that's been at your club for such a long period and he set the identity, to replace him with someone that, from what I've heard from people like the club, from players that I know, but also from pre-season, Arne Slot has set the stall out. Everyone seems to like him. So it doesn't matter if we sign anyone or not, because there's teams that are signing a lot of players and their fans are still upset.
You already said players that I know. Oh, OK. I was going to go with Aston Villa, actually, because Amadou Onana, I think that is a great signing. We're not really talking about how much of a miss Luiz is going to be. He was such an integral part for them getting Champions League football, always available. But I think everyone's so excited about how far Onana can come under Emery. I think he's going to be a really good signing for them. Obviously, the money, around £50 million. I don't think that is bad for his profile and how high his ceiling is. So I think he's going to be a great signing.
Would you say he's potentially the bargain of the window, being $50 million for a player with that stature?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm not sure, because when you look at other signings, obviously it's not the same. But Tosin going for free with the Premier League experience, I think that's a really good signing. He only missed a few games last season. Was integral for Fulham as well. He's coming into we've talked about a congested Chelsea side, but we've heard in interviews he's backing himself. He knows what he wants. So I think that for free as well is a really good signing.
Yeah. Archie Gray at Spurs. So it's a brilliant signing. He played against us for Leeds and he absolutely ran the show at Stamford Bridge last season.
He did. He's a very, very good player, Archie Gray.
Yeah, I think people have been very excited about him. He was linked to quite a few teams. Can play right back, can play in midfield. I think also the biggest thing about Archie Gray was that when I watched him last season for Leeds, he sort of started off as a central midfielder and eventually started to play right back. And because of his size and his stature, because he's so nimble and so tiny, a lot of people thought he's going to be one of these sort of newcome fullbacks that sort of attacks and goes into forward areas or potentially inverts. But his technical quality is so high that the moment you sat and watched Leeds, like you said at Stamford Bridge, you go, he's the real deal. So as long as he can stay fit, because he did have an injury last season, if I'm not wrong, Spurs have got an absolute superstar in their hands because a lot of teams were after him.
Obviously newly promoted teams, Ipswich have been busy and they got someone that they had on loan last season in Amari Hutchinson.
Yeah, they always say don't fall in love with a lone player because you know he's always going to go back to his parent club. But
they do say that.
That is a known saying
in
football, and obviously in this case they were able to because he signed for them. Obviously the fans have something to look forward to. We're always questioning who are these teams going to sign, and them starting off with him was a great deal.
In a word, your favourite signing out of these?
Matt Twyford.
I'd say Archie Gray.
I'd say Calafiori.
I'll say Tosin Adarabioyo. Sure. Sam, Kwaku, Nabeed, thank you so much. We're, of course, just 2 days away from the start of the new EFL season. We are visiting all 72 teams before the big kickoff. We'll be live to Port Vale in the next hour.